Have you ever stopped in the middle of your routine while scrolling endlessly through your phone or driving to a job that barely excites you and seriously asked yourself why some people seem to rise, relentlessly breaking barriers as if gravity doesn't apply to them, while others with similar intelligence, similar backgrounds, and sometimes even greater opportunities remain trapped in cycles that look painfully repetitive and strangely familiar? What if the reason is not motivation, not luck, not even raw talent, but a truth so uncomfortable that most people prefer to ignore it? A truth that doesn't fit neatly into inspirational quotes or viral posts. A truth that challenges your identity instead of comforting your ego. The forbidden truth about success is that it demands a psychological death before it delivers visible rewards, and most people are not failing because they lack ability, but because they are unwilling to let their current identity collapse in order to construct a stronger, sharper, more disciplined version of themselves. You've been told that success is about working harder, believing more, staying positive, and never quitting. And while those ideas contain fragments of reality, they are incomplete because they focus on behavior without addressing identity, and behavior without identity change eventually collapses. Under pressure, people want extraordinary results while protecting ordinary habits. They want financial independence while clinging to consumer mindsets. They want influence while fearing criticism. And they want transformation without discomfort. But the equation does not work that way because results are a byproduct of who you consistently are, not what you occasionally do. Look closely at high performers in business, sports, entertainment, or any competitive field, and you will notice a pattern that is rarely highlighted in highlight reels or interviews, which is that before they became successful publicly, they became different privately. And that difference required isolation, sacrifice, repetition, and the willingness to be misunderstood for long periods of time. Success demands that you detach from environments that normalize mediocrity, because humans unconsciously adapt to the expectations of their tribe, and if your circle rewards comfort more than growth, you will slowly shrink your ambition to fit the emotional temperature of the room, even if deep down you know you are capable of more. There is a story that repeats itself quietly across the world, where someone with average beginnings decides to break a predictable pattern, begins waking up earlier while others sleep, begins studying while others scroll, begins building while others consume. And during that fragile early phase, they are often questioned, doubted, and even mocked by the same people who later celebrate their success. The painful irony is that society only applauds results after they become undeniable, but it rarely supports the uncomfortable process that produces them, which means if you are waiting for universal approval before committing to your path, you are unconsciously choosing stagnation over growth. Another reality that most people resist accepting is that success is subtraction before it is addition, meaning you must eliminate distractions, reduce unnecessary commitments, cut toxic influences, and remove habits that dilute your focus before you can meaningfully add wealth, impact, or recognition to your life. Time is not the primary limitation for most people. Attention is, and highly successful individuals understand that attention is a finite asset that must be guarded aggressively. Because every yes to something trivial is a no to something transformative, and every hour lost to passive consumption is an hour stolen from potential mastery. Motivation, which is glorified endlessly online, is emotionally stimulating but structurally weak because it fluctuates with mood, environment, and energy levels, while discipline, which feels repetitive and sometimes boring, creates stability and long-term leverage by ensuring action even when enthusiasm disappears. You do not rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your systems. And if your daily structure supports distraction, inconsistency, and comfort, then no amount of vision boards or affirmations will override the gravity of your habits. There is also a selective nature to success that many people refuse to acknowledge because it challenges the comforting belief that desire alone is enough yet wanting. Something intensely does not qualify you for it if you are unwilling to pay the psychological, emotional, and social price required to obtain it. That price includes delayed gratification in a culture addicted to instant rewards, public vulnerability in a society obsessed with image control, strategic selfishness in environments that expect constant availability, and the courage to endure seasons where progress is invisible and doubt is loud. Pressure, which most people interpret as a warning sign to retreat, is often the very force that reveals hidden capacity. Because under stress, you either fracture or expand, and expansion requires preparation that was built long before the moment of testing arrived. Opportunity rarely announces itself with dramatic music and perfect timing. Instead, it appears disguised as responsibility, risk, or challenge. And those who have trained consistently are able to recognize it and act decisively, while others hesitate, overthink, and eventually watch from the sidelines. There is also a deeper psychological layer that cannot be ignored, which is that success magnifies your existing character traits rather than correcting them. Meaning, if you lack emotional stability, integrity, or self-awareness, greater power and resources will amplify those weaknesses instead of hiding them. Money does not automatically create wisdom. Visibility does not automatically create confidence. And influence does not automatically create fulfillment, which is why inner development must run parallel to external ambition if you want sustainable success rather than temporary spikes followed by collapse. Failure, which is often dramatized as a catastrophic endpoint, is more accurately feedback that your current strategy or capacity needs refinement. And those who reframe failure as data rather than identity are able to iterate, adapt, and improve at a speed that intimidates those who personalize every setback. The difference between those who break through and those who plateau is frequently not intelligence or connections, but interpretation, because two people can experience the same rejection and assign completely different meanings to it, with one concluding, "I am not good enough," and the other concluding, "I need to improve and try again." Meaning shapes emotion, influences behavior, behavior compounds into results, and results reinforce identity, which means if you alter the meaning you assign to obstacles, you disrupt the entire negative cycle and create a new trajectory built on resilience rather than retreat. There is a loneliness that accompanies growth, especially when your priorities shift and your standards rise, because conversations that once felt engaging may begin to feel repetitive. Environments that once felt comfortable may begin to feel limiting, and relationships that were built around convenience may struggle under ambition. However, there is also a loneliness attached to regret, which is quieter but heavier because it accumulates slowly over years of postponed decisions, abandoned ideas, and unexplored potential, until one day you look back and realize the discomfort you avoided early became the dissatisfaction you cannot escape later. You will experience discomfort either way, whether it is the discomfort of discipline or the discomfort of disappointment, the discomfort of temporary isolation or the discomfort of permanent stagnation. So, the real question is not whether you can avoid pain, but which form of pain you are willing to endure. Identity transformation sits at the center of this entire conversation. Because if you want financial growth, you must think like someone who invests rather than consumes. If you want influence, you must communicate like someone who leads rather than reacts. And if you want freedom, you must manage time like someone who builds rather than drifts. This transformation does not occur through a single breakthrough moment, but through daily repetition that feels almost invisible at first. through habits executed when no one is watching, through standards maintained when shortcuts are available, and through decisions that align with long-term vision rather than short-term emotion. Momentum, once established, creates a compounding effect that shifts effort from feeling forced to feeling natural, because evidence of progress strengthens confidence. Confidence fuels consistency, and consistency accelerates results, forming a feedback loop that appears extraordinary from the outside but is methodical on the inside. The forbidden truth about success is not that it is impossible, but that it is inconvenient because it requires you to question your excuses, confront your insecurities, restructure your environment, and take ownership of outcomes without blaming circumstances endlessly. 5 years from now, your life will reflect the standards you enforce today, not the intentions you express publicly. And 10 years from now, the gap between who you are and who you could have been will be determined by the risks you are either brave enough or afraid enough to take in this current season. Time will pass regardless of hesitation. Opportunities will continue appearing for those prepared to seize them. And the world will not slow down to accommodate indecision, which means the only variable you truly control is the level of responsibility you are willing to assume starting now. So instead of asking how to achieve success, as if it were a mysterious formula reserved for a chosen few, ask who you must become to naturally generate the results you desire. Because once identity shifts, behavior follows, and once behavior aligns consistently with ambition, outcomes eventually comply. If this perspective unsettles you slightly, that discomfort is not a threat, but an invitation. An invitation to raise your standards. Audit your habits honestly. Upgrade your circle intentionally. And take one decisive action today that aligns with the person you claim you want to become. The truth is no longer hidden from you, and once awareness replaces ignorance, inaction becomes a choice rather than a misunderstanding. So the final question is simple yet unavoidable. Will you protect your current comfort, or will you construct a future that demands more from you than you have ever demanded from yourself?